Hebrews, Hebrews, Hebrews. This is Prophets of Awakening. This is our evening Shabbat class, the 13th of May, 2023. We're going to be picking up with what we were dealing with Friday night and this morning, the writings of Abraham. Okay, that'll be the topic in the discussion. Okay, for those that you can go to our YouTube channel, Prophets of Awakening. Check out our videos. A lot of information given through the videos, and the videos will connect dots for you and lead you into the truth of the Holy Scriptures. And if you like what you are hearing and receiving through the videos on the channel, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And for those that want to support the channel, you can look at the bottom of the screen on our YouTube videos, and we have a cash app, which is $Prophet Leonard. If you feel need to support the channel, it'd be greatly appreciated. This is the non-Messianic channel, for those that don't know. And by that we mean we deal with the Tanakh and the Torah. Tanakh being the Old Testament, the so-called Book of Remembrance, and the Torah, first 5 books of the Old Testament that was given to Moses by the Lord of hosts. Okay. Shalom and welcome to Prophets of Awakening, and welcome to our evening Shabbat class. We're going to do our normal, which is a moment of silence, evening Shabbat prayer, Psalms, do some current events, and then a little need to know information. Then we'll go into our Q&A. Then we'll pick back up where we left off this morning with the writings of Abraham. Okay. So this moment of silence is for the Lord of hosts and all that he's doing to bring about our prophesied deliverance where we've been scattered. Okay. Oh Lord, I pray unto the Lord my God. We make our confessions, O Lord, and great and dreadful God, keeping covenant and mercy to them that love thee and to them that keep thy commandments. O Lord, righteousness belongeth unto thee, but unto us a confusion of face, as it is this day, to the men of Judah, to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and unto all Israel that are near and that are far off, through all the countries whither thou hast driven us, because of our trespass, that we have trespassed against thee. As it is written in the laws of Moses, all his evil has come upon us in the land of our captivity, here in the Americas, Caribbean, Great Britain, Africa, and abroad. O Lord, according to all thy righteousness, I beseech thee, let thine anger and thy fury be turned away from thy city Jerusalem, and thy people, and thy holy mountain. O Lord, hear this prayer, and cause thy face to shine upon thy sanctuary and thy people for your sake. O Lord, open thine eyes and incline thine ears to hear and to behold our condition. O Lord, hear. O Lord, forgive. O Lord, hearken and do, and defer not for thy own sake, O my Lord, for thy people and your land need you desperately at this hour. Peace be unto you. Okay. So with that, I'm going to read the Psalms. Okay. Okay, I'm going to read Psalms 80. It's for a prayer for restoration. Give ear, O shepherd of Israel, thou that leadest Joseph like a flock, thou that dwellest between the cherubim, shine forth. Before Ephraim and Benjamin and Manasseh, stir up thy strength and come and save us. Turn us again, O God, and cause thy face to shine, and we shall be saved. O Lord, God of hosts, how long wilt thou be angry against the prayer of thy people? Thou feedest them with the bread of tears, and giveth them tears to drink in great measure. Thou makest us a strife unto our neighbors, and our enemies laugh among themselves. Turn us again, O God of hosts, and cause thy face to shine, and we shall be saved. Thou hast brought a vine out of Egypt. Thou hast cast out the heathen and planted it. Thou prepared the room before it, and didst cause it to take deep root, and it filled the land. The hills were covered with the shadow of it, and the boughs thereof were like the goodly cedars. She sent out her boughs unto the sea, and her branches unto the river. Why hast thou being broken down her hedges, so that all they which pass by the way do pluck her. The boar out of the woods doeth waste it, and the wild beasts of the field do devour it. Return, we beseech thee, O God of hosts, look down from heaven, and behold, and visit this vine, the vineyard which thy right hand hath planted, and the branch that thou madest strong for thyself. It is burnt fire, it is cut down, they perish at the rebuke of thy countenance. Let thy hand be upon the man of thy right hand, upon the Son of Man, whom thou madest strong for thyself. So will not we go back from thee. Quicken us, and we shall call upon thy name. Turn us again, O Lord God of hosts. Cause thy face to shine, and we shall be saved. So that was Psalms 80, with a prayer for restoration of Israel. Okay, so a Psalm of Asaph. Any comments on it? Okay, so with that being said, we're going to go into our current events. Okay.
Oil sufficient. The oil trade between nations has always been there. It is almost impossible for some countries to survive without other nations, as they are totally dependent on them for oil. But China has made a discovery that has made its oil supply go high. Like the Europe, China is no more dependent on other nations for oil. But will it stop buying oil from its friends? Is China about to be an oil seller? Let's find out. Welcome back to another exciting episode of our channel. Innovation Diary brings you China's innovation stories, projects, and growing influence in different parts of the world. If you are new to the channel and enjoy learning about fast-paced modernity, especially China's development and growing power, you will find our videos intriguing. In this video, we are going to talk about what oil discovery China made and how it will impact it. We will also discuss China's oil drilling techniques and improved technology. Let's get started. China is one of the greatest oil consumers, and you cannot question its oil demand when you see China's advancement and technology. China runs a lot of industries with oil, and its large population and extensive oil use in different industries make it the world's #1 oil consumer. And being the world's largest oil consumer, China is the only country worried about its oil supply. Of course, all the nations require oil to run in general. But in China, the demand is not just limited to transportation. Fuel is required to run all industries. And China, as everyone knows, is the producer of goods. Making these goods in industries requires fuel. That's the reason why its oil demand is so extensive. But does China produce the same amount of oil as it consumes? For any country with a huge oil need, the problem starts when they run out of their oil supply. Many nations depend on other nations' oil, as theirs is insufficient. And China is also one of those nations. China produces a lot of oil, but its demand is more than what it produces. And for that reason, China had to buy oil from other nations. China has signed deals with all the oil producers in the world. Any nation with more oil is China's friend. China makes friends based on business. And China is one of the few nations that every other nation wants to be friends with. It can provide a lot of benefits to all of its friends. And what does it ask in return? The oil trade. China will also sign more deals with nations in Africa. We have made a video on China and Africa's relationship and how it benefits them. If you haven't watched it, go check it out. China also gets oil from Russia. Russia is currently selling most of its oil to China. A few years back, China used to buy more oil from OPEC countries, but after China and Russia's relationship strengthened, China started buying more oil from Russia. After the Russia-Ukraine conflict, Russia only has one reliable buyer, China. So, even if China's oil production is less than its demand, it still gets oil. And as compared to the price at which European countries are getting oil, China is getting oil at less price. China's relationship with OPEC nations is also getting stronger. Many nations are waiting to be a part of BRICS, which will mean more business with China. As China's importance increases, it gets exposed to more oil producers. And all the nations would love to have an oil trade with China. But what will happen if China starts producing more oil than it needs? Before we continue further, tell us, are you loving the video? If yes, please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel for more videos about China's development, power, and influence on the world. Let's continue now. China does not want to stay dependent on someone for so long. China can get oil from all these nations, but it will make China feel less independent. China wants to be self-sufficient by all means. It does not want to rely on anyone. China has always created things it needed the most instead of staying dependent on anyone. Just like China has been doing in the past, this time, China also wants to produce its own oil. Even if nations are China's best friends and will never stop giving oil to China, it still does not mean China should not be independent. So, for that reason, China kept doing its oil finding projects. At the same time, China also advanced its mining and oil refining sector. And things changed when China discovered the Bao'ao 21-1 oil region. A company in China discovered the deepest oil resource in the South China Sea. This is more than 50 billion cubic meters. The Bao'ao 21-1 is one of the largest oil-producing regions in China. It was discovered in 1987, and oil production started in 1999. And since then, it has very much fulfilled the country's oil needs. China National Offshore Oil Corporation operates this oil field. CNOOC is one of the most prominent names in China. The oil field was estimated to have 146 million barrels of oil. And the region's gas is around 2.7 billion cubic meters. The oil capacity of this region was 26,000 barrels per day. But as the oil demand increased, many expansions and upgrades were required. China wanted to increase its capacity and improve its efficiency. The goal was to make this region meet the oil demand. The region was important in supporting economic development when it was founded. And as time...
Okay.
We were a motorized bicycle company.
Okay. Any comments on that? As you can see, China is moving fast.
One phone.
Everybody in the world as far as its productivity and its growth. It's going to take them long before they'll be the lone survivors all by themselves.
I have a shalom. Yes, sir.
Okay, another one on the road.
Can you hear me? Brother Leonard, Leonard, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Okay.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Fully or partly own and operate all these ports outside China's borders. There's 95 of them on this map. Meanwhile, US companies don't operate any major ports abroad. For China, these ports have been part of a long-term effort to build global infrastructure. Chinese firms have spent years and billions of dollars to build, operate, and develop ports around the world. American officials view China's expanding network as an increasing security threat, posing significant economic and even military risks. So what has the US done to counter this? Block China from making more deals to keep ports in so-called friendly hands. But the US has had mixed success. In the past decade, China has spent $1 trillion on its Belt and Road Initiative, a global infrastructure project designed to boost China's economy and political clout through government-backed investments in dozens of countries.
The scale of China's trading enterprise is really staggering.
Isaac Cardin is a senior fellow at the Carnegie Endowment studying China's maritime affairs. He and a colleague spent years building a data set of all Chinese-owned and operated ports around the world. It currently includes 95 ports across dozens of countries.
The strategic motivations for China, I think, are fundamentally defensive. They feel vulnerable to the United States and its alliance network that they could be cut out of the global economic system in some fundamental way. And so I think the drive to make themselves indispensable to it and central to it is in part a way of insulating themselves against that vulnerability.
Ports are considered national security infrastructure by the US government because they're central to the flow of essential goods like steel and food. But commercial ports are dual purpose. They're useful both economically, China can give its vessels priority handling and lower docking fees, and militarily, docks are used by navies to refuel, restock, and rearm ships. In recent years, the US has worked to keep China from expanding this network in a few strategic regions. China has three main shipping and logistics companies that own most of its stakes in overseas ports: COSCO Shipping Ports, China Merchants Port, and Hutchison Ports. COSCO and China Merchants are both owned by China's central government, while Hutchison is privately owned. COSCO is an investor in several key US ports: Los Angeles, Long Beach, and Seattle. But in 2017, when COSCO almost took over operation of a Long Beach container terminal, US regulators stepped in. The Trump administration blocked them from getting control out of national security concerns. Ultimately, COSCO sold the terminal. But Chinese firms are still a major presence at US ports. COSCO still has a major stake in another container terminal at Long Beach from a pre-existing deal. And lots of port infrastructure, like the cranes that move cargo from ship to shore, is made in China. Lately, some US officials have argued that's a security concern too.
There's growing suspicion that anything which is controlled by China is used to spy on the United States. There's been procedures at the U.S. government to see whether the cranes at American ports, which are made in China, are used to spy on the operations of the port.
In Europe, the US has also been trying to block China from expanding its stake in ports and controlling the flow of goods to the continent. But US officials have had mixed success convincing countries that security concerns outweigh the benefits of Chinese state investment. In Hamburg, Germany's largest port, COSCO planned to buy a 35% stake in one of the port's container terminals. Government officials reduced the potential stake to 24.9%, but still faced criticism from the US and many in the German government. The country's chancellor ultimately permitted the deal to move forward, but the offer is still pending review.
The United States would advise and press any country in the world not to accept Chinese investments. It's a big dilemma for countries because the Chinese have the cash to invest, which means this creates a lot of jobs, and it also improves the outputs of those countries.
The Hamburg deal, though, continues to face opposition, which will make it difficult to move forward.
In the past, such small investment wouldn't even make it. It's just indicative of how tense the relations in the rest of the world are in the region.
A similar scene played out in Croatia, but in that case, the US was more successful. It used behind-the-scenes diplomacy to have Croatia cancel a deal it had made with Chinese firms looking to operate a container terminal in Rijeka, and give the contract to a Danish company, Maersk, instead. Rijeka is strategically valuable because it's close to the Suez Canal and has access to Central European markets. The US government was particularly concerned about the deal because the US Navy and NATO sometimes use the port to move military equipment in and out of Europe. China could have made that more difficult.
What Western intelligence officials are saying is that by controlling these terminals, they could eventually have a Navy installation there in the future. I don't think this will be the case, especially in any European port anytime soon, but it could happen in Africa.
The US has arrangements with dozens of military bases in Africa, including several on the continent's west, north, and east coasts. China has just one base in Djibouti. But while US firms don't own commercial ports in Africa, Chinese firms own many. US officials have been concerned about China building on the relationships it's formed through commercial ports to establish additional permanent military bases in Africa, especially on the Atlantic Ocean, waters the US considers home turf.
The thing I think I'm most worried about is this military base on the Atlantic coast. And where they have the most traction for that today is in Equatorial Guinea.
In Equatorial Guinea, the US has been trying to convince country officials to reject China's bid to build a military base in the city of Bata, where China already has a commercial port deep enough for naval vessels to dock.
It's easy to put a small naval facility at a commercial port. if the port infrastructure is there, it can be used by an Asian. There are, I think, real concerns that eventually you will see Chinese warships docking at that port.
If they were to establish a military base there, Equatorial Guinea would be China's first base on the Atlantic, which would enable Chinese warships to rearm opposite the east coast of the U.S. U.S. officials have gone to Equatorial Guinea to persuade leaders there to reject China's overtures, but it's unclear whether the diplomatic outreach will fend off a Chinese naval presence there.
This will be something that U.S. officials are watching closely. Beijing hopes that it could, in the future, have military presence in terminals and ports that it controls.
Whether it is or isn't defensive is almost irrelevant. It has security consequences. We need to be attuned to those. We need to focus on what we're trying to accomplish. And maybe that means we do need to counter China at various turns, but that competition is not going to be one for one. You get a port, we get a port. It's more like, what can we do to secure our own maritime trade and transport? Because ultimately that's what they're doing. It just has negative externalities for our own ability to feel secure in maritime trade.
Okay, any comments on that? Okay, that's some need to know information right here. It's dealing with the giants, kind of what I was talking about with the Amorites. You know, the difference in the Amorites and the rest of the giants. So let's deal with it.
My dear brothers and sisters, let us delve deeper into the mysterious and intriguing subject of the Rephaim, or giants, as they are described in the Old Testament. The name Rephaim, which literally means terrible ones, gives us an indication of the intimidating and fearsome nature of these individuals. As we delve into the passage of the Old Testament that speak of the Rephaim, we find that the context of these passages describes them as giants. And while the term Rephaim is often used to describe these towering figures, it is important to note that the Hebrew word Rephaim has...
So this is the important part about this whole video right here. I was trying to convey this before, the meaning of Rephaim. Check it out.
Two distinct meanings. Firstly, in poetic literature, the word Rephaim is used to refer to departed spirits, whose dwelling place is Sheol. This meaning is figurative and serves as a description of the dead, similar to our concept of a ghost. Secondly, the word Rephaim is used to describe a mighty people with tall stature who lived in Canaan.
So that last one is what everybody deal with, them being a race of giant people that was in the land of Canaan. But the first one, when you're dealing with the scriptures, you find out that the Most High keeps saying those that go down into the pit. Within that pit is Guyana. So that's the spiritual part of it. When those giants died, that spirit didn't send to heaven because the spirit didn't come from heaven. It was born upon the earth. When the angel transgressed and defiled himself by sleeping with a human woman, that's how the giant came into existence. The spirit that's in him came into existence, so it was born upon the earth. It has nothing to do with heaven. So when the giant dies, the spirit is still here. And so that tied to the Amorites. And then when you understand that whole region, and the Goshen, Egypt, and the land of Canaan, with giants all through there. So that's where this what you call that, the culture of Egypt, when they dealt with the dead. You know, the whole thing was the afterlife, the dead. It's all this coming from these giants. That's their terminology. Like we was listening when we was dealing with the writings of Abraham. He kept talking about the understanding that they had, the knowledge that was passed down from the serpent and passed down to Cain and was passed down to Nimrod. That's what they was dealing with. Like he said, our forefathers, when they passed, they ascended. But they forefathers, being these fallen angels and these giants, descended. That's what that's all about in Egypt. Newt and all that is tied to the underworld, because that's where these spirits go to. And those Amorites had the ability to ascend and descend from the Shaul, from the pit of hell. They had that ability. Okay, so yeah, so I want to shine a light on that.
This meaning does not refer to a specific group, but rather serves as a descriptive term for a group of people with a specific characteristic.
Yeah.
In this case, tall stature. Genesis 14:5 is the first time the people of Rephaim are mentioned. Genesis 14:5, Amplified Bible. In the 14th year, Chedorlaomer and the 3 kings who were with him attacked and subdued the Rephaim in Astaroth Karnaim, the Zuzim in Ham, and the Emin in Shaveh Karaphim. When the Israelites first approached the Promised Land after the exodus from Egypt, they were filled with fear and trepidation, for the land was said to be filled with giants, or Nephilim, as recorded in Numbers 13:33. These giants, also known as the sons of Anak, were widely scattered throughout Canaan. The book of Deuteronomy, in chapter 2, 20-21, describes the Rephaim as strong and tall, similar to the Anakites. The Israelites were afraid of these giants because of their reputation as fierce warriors, but they were also afraid of the unknown. They'd never seen anything like that before.
Neurologists are stunned.
To 21. It is also regarded as the land of the Rephaim, of giant stature. The Rephaim used to live there, but the Ammonites called them Zamzummim, a great numerous people, and tall as the Anakim. But the Lord destroyed them before the sons of Ammon, and they disposed them and settled in their place. So where did these giants come from? One theory, based on Genesis 6:1-4, is that fallen angels, the sons of God, had sexual relations with women, resulting in the birth of giants. Genesis 6:1-4, New American Standard Bible. Now it came about when mankind began to multiply on the face of the land, the daughters were born to them. That the sons of God saw that the daughters of mankind were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves, whomever they chose. Then the Lord said, My spirit will not remain with man forever, because he is also flesh. Nevertheless, his days shall be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came into the daughters of mankind, and they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown. The last Rephaim documented in the Bible was Og, king of Bashan. Og is referred to as the last of the Rephaim in Deuteronomy 3:11, and later in the books of Numbers and Joshua. Apparently, Og was the last of the Rephaim in his area, on the east side of the Jordan River. Deuteronomy 3:11. For only Og, king of Bashan, was left of the remnant of the giants known as the Rephaim. Behold, his bed frame was a bed frame of iron. Is it not in Rabbah of the Ammonites? It was 9 cubits, 12 feet long, and 4 cubits, 6 feet wide, using the cubit of a man, the forearm to the end of the middle finger. Let us take a moment to reflect on the powerful story of King Og of Bashan, an infamous Amorite king who reigned in the land of Ashtaroth during the days of Moses. As the Israelites journeyed towards the Promised Land, they encountered many formidable foes, and King Og was one of them. He fought fiercely against the Israelites and led his entire army against them. Before the Israelites fought King Og, they also had to deal with King Sihon of the Amorites, but the Lord had already given him and his territory to Israel, so the Israelites had the victory before even starting the battle. Now, the king of Israel had to deal with King Og of Bashan, who also sent his entire army against Israel. Og was another Amorite king who posed no threat to Israel, because the Lord had already given him and his territory to Israel. Before he even put on his armor, Og's defeat was a foregone conclusion. The Israelites then marched towards Bashan, where King Og confronted them at Edrei. Because of Og's reputation, the Israelites were terrified. Do not be afraid of him, for I have delivered him into your hands, along with his entire army and his land, God assured Moses. The book of Deuteronomy includes a narrative of a conflict that occurred between forces led by Moses and those led by Og. According to the biblical account, Og was the ruler of 60 different walled cities, all of which were taken by the Israelites. And perhaps you don't know what lies across the valley, but look at that worry in comparison to the Lord God himself and say by faith, the battle is yours, Lord. It is your battle. I lean on you. It is God's love for us that causes him to bring us to an end of our own strength. He sees our need to trust him, and his love is so great that he will not let us live another day without turning over our arms to him, our fears, our worries, even our confusion, so that nothing becomes more significant to us than our Father. Never.
Okay. Any comments on that? Okay, so we're at the Q&A section. Anybody got any questions or comments about something they dealt with over the week, or this topic with the writings of Abraham that we discussed last night and this morning? Any questions?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Yes, my mic was not working earlier. When we were talking about China, I was wondering about Saudi Arabia. How would they replace Saudi Arabia as far as the oil goes?
Well, they already sealed the deal with Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia pretty much is under China's control right now, because they Saudi Arabia is already in the process of joining the BRICS.
Oh, okay.
Right. So yeah, they pretty much got the Middle East where they control. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So, anybody else got anything? Any other questions? I'm gonna read some more out of the writings of Abraham. I said I was gonna make a Sabbath day out of it. Okay. Let's see where I stopped it. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm in 42. So I think I stopped it. So it says, the king so commanded, and for 3 days and 3 nights he was the fire preparing in Cassidum, and at the end of the time I was brought forth from the prison to be cast therein. This is Abraham talking. Nevertheless, while I was in prison, the Lord sent his angel to minister unto me and to comfort me. And they said unto me, Fear not, Abram, for the work is not yet finished, for thou shalt yet become a father of many nations, and thou shalt preach the gospel in far places, even in the land of Egypt shalt thou declare the mysteries of thy God, and thou shalt cast thee into the furnace. Is not the Lord able to deliver thee therefrom? For through thy deliverance shall many be brought to bow down and worship the Lord thy God, and forsake the evils of Nimrod. Therefore I came forth from the prison, confident in the power of my God and in his promise that I should be delivered from the fire. Okay. So this long before Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Okay. But as I came forth, the astrologers of the king looked upon me, and by power of Satan, they recognized me, and they saw me clothed in light, and they cried out unto the king, saying, O king of all the earth, surely this is the man of whom we spake unto thee 50 years ago, that he should rise up and overthrow thy kingdom. Wherefore was he not slain? Hearing these words, the king was greatly troubled, and calling my father Terah before him, he exclaimed, Is this then thy son who was to have been slain? And what child then did I slay at his birth? Speak now the truth, and thou shalt be free. But if thou speakest not the truth, thou shalt die with thy son. Remember, I called my father to swear concerning the matter. And my father answered the king, saying, My lord king, I am guilty. For because of my tender feelings toward my son, I did substitute for him the son of my concubine, who was born on the same night. The king's wrath mounted, and his anger he cried, Who advised thee to do this thing? Surely that man shall die. And my father, being terrified at the king's anger, said, I was my son's Haran, who was so advised me. Now Haran had not advised my father of anything, but the Spirit of the Lord had wrought upon my father that he was loath to give me up to the king. Nevertheless, Haran was privy to what my father had done, and Haran was one of the believers in the true God of heaven, but his heart was not firm, nor his faith sure. Wherefore Haran said in his heart, If Abraham be delivered from the furnace, then shall I know that the God of Abraham is indeed the true God. Wherefore Haran wavered in his faith, and his confidence waxed not great in the Most High God, but my confidence was secure, for I knew that it rested upon the rock of my salvation, and the words of God, failed not. Now when the king heard the words of my father, he caused that Haran should also be taken with me, and leading us to the vale of Casdim, they stripped us of all our clothing and bound us with cords and cast us into the fire. Now Haran, because of his faith, was not perfect in the Lord his God, was consumed in the fire, that no trace of his body remained. But my faith remained firm in the Lord, and he sent his angels to sustain me and release me from my bounds. And I was 3 days and 3 nights in the furnace with the angels, conversing with them and being instructed by them. Okay. After the 3rd day, the king sent his servants to govern the fire, that it might again be used for making bricks. But when they came up to the furnace, behold, I was sitting therein conversing with the angels whom God had sent. Therefore, the servants of the king, being greatly astonished, went and told him of this matter, but he would not believe them. However, when the men persisted in their tale and showed great consternation, King Nimrod himself came unto the furnace, but the angels had departed. But the angels had departed, and I sat alone in the flames. And when he saw me therein unconsumed, the king cried out in alarm, O Abram, art thou a sorcerer greater than ours, that thou shouldst live in the flames unconsumed? But I answered him, Not so, O king, but the God of heaven, who is the true God above all, hath sent his angels unto me, and hath preserved me from this fire. Being much amazed, the king exclaimed, Come forth then from the fire, for I see that no power of mine can harm thee. Whereupon I ascended from the furnace and stood before the king and his counselors, who examined me closely, but behold, even mine hair was not seen. Okay. Wherefore the king caused garments from his own wardrobe to be brought, and I was clothed therein. He caused me to be seated upon a throne at the right hand, where my father was wont to sit And he said unto me, what of Haran thy brother, who was cast into the furnace with thee? Did the angels carry him away to some far place that he might be saved? But I replied unto him, nay, but the faith of my brother was not perfect in the Most High God. Therefore he was consumed in the flames. Upon hearing this, the king marveled and permitted me to speak in his court concerning the Most High God and the redemption which should be wrought in behalf of those who believe on his name. Okay. Nevertheless, the heart of the king was not changed, for he glorified in power, and he thought to learn more from my power by permitting me to speak. But about 3 hours, about 300 men, those who sat in the king's court, were converted unto the Lord and followed no more after the evil order of Nimrod. Wherefore they were cast out of the king's presence. But as for me, the king gave me many gifts and sent me away in peace, and many were joined unto the believers in the Lord from that day. For having heard of my salvation from the fire, multitude came to my father's house to hear of God who could do such mighty things, and many were converted unto the truth. Okay. Now, among the believers were Lot, son of Haran, and Haran's daughters, Michal and Sarah. Michal was fair, and Sarah was beautiful above all women. Her face was as that of an angel, filled with light, her cheeks as two roses in full bloom, her hair as spun gold, which men treasured above all, her eyes as pools of blue reflecting the glory of God's sky, her nose delicate and lovely, and her countenance truly was fair as the sun, her breasts like two mountains rising above the plains of Shinar, were fair to behold, and her complexion truly like the clouds of pure impurity. Her arms were comely, her hands perfect, and delighted to behold, always in the service of those who need, and quick to hasten to the service of the Lord her God. Her palms were lovely, unmarred by her constant labor, her fingers long and slender, her feet were comely, and always set in the path of truth. Her thighs were well-rounded and soft, yet never failing to sustain her in her labor of love in behalf of the service of God. Truly no maiden was fairer than Sarah, the daughter of Haran, for her beauty was greater than all other women, and she excelled them all. But with her beauty was great wisdom and perfect faith in the Lord, and constant service in the behalf of the saints. For her hands never ceased from blessing the people of God. Wherefore my brother Nahor took Milcah, the daughter of Haran, to wife, but I, Abraham, took Sarah at the directions of the Lord, and I found great joy in her. Okay? But behold, Satan was not content to have me continue to disrupt his kingdom in peace. Therefore he sent a dream unto the King Nimrod, in which the king did see that I should be the destruction of himself and of his kingdom. Moreover, it was shown the king in his dream that 3 of his own household, even Zephtah, Lilith, and Naphtara, daughters of Onan, son of Nimrod, who were virgins, had joined the believers of the Most High God. And when the king awoke from his sleep, he was angry, and he caused that I, with these 3 virgins, Zephtah, Lilith, and Mithra, should be seized and bound and carried to Potiphar's hill at the head of the plains of Asher, to be sacrificed unto the God of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And these 3 virgins did the priests of Pharaoh offer up upon the altar, and they died singing praises to the Lord and bearing witness to the truth. Wherefore they shall be blessed forever, for they have entered into the rest of the Lord. Okay, that was the end of that. Any comments on that? You can see it's got a Christian take to it. A lot of the things that Abraham did, you can see on being played out in the New Testament.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody got any comments on that?
What part of where the three virgins is that a part like that in the New Testament, or just the?
Well, they got all of when the New Testament they have all these women playing roles, like they had like 5 women came to the tomb.
Yes,
And,
sir.
you know what I'm saying? And even with Paul, they had a bunch of women around Paul. They over time by the editing and re-editing and changing the story, they weeded all that out. But you see a lot of it in the New Testament with Jesus, but with Paul, they edited a lot of it out because it was, you can see through it. We got this lady, I think her name Thicula, that was dealing with Paul and Thicula. You want to check it out, Google it, or either go to YouTube and type that in. Yeah, so he had dealing with her. They took it out, and that to me, that part of who Lilith is, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
So
sir.
that's kind of strange to me. You got Lilith is one of these virgins. You know what I'm saying? Lilith is supposedly one of the names of Satan. When you look in the book of Adam and Eve, when how he was shape shifting, changing in all these different forms. Adam. So one of the forms that he transformed into was Lilith. When Adam was put to sleep and he formed Eve, uh, Lucifer came to Adam and told him. Adam asked him who you are because he never seen the other woman, and he told him that his name was Lilith, her name was Lilith, and that he had came about. She came out the same time when he formed Eve, while he was asleep, while he was in a deep sleep, and he had formed Eve. He had formed her first, Lilith, but that was actually him. So that's another one of the names. We got the dragon, the serpent, Lucifer, and the deceiver, and then Lilith is one of his names. So it's kind of ironic right here that you got Lilith as one of these women. And
Yes, sir.
it's even stranger. The other one is Nefertiti. That's crazy too. Yeah. And there's some.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Right. So I'm gonna play a little bit of this and then we'll close out. I was planning on doing an hour. So this is a little bit from the guy this morning and some of the people he's been interacting with as far as some of the stuff we listened to and talking about. We'll play a little bit of it.
So, first and only song on this side of the show, I want to have a talk with us tonight. Most people have seen those videos. Loads of comments and different levels of comments have been coming in with regards to what was seen on the videos that have been shown. It is regrettable that the brother did not take the option for a conversation, because had he taken that option, we could have talked things through and I could have shown him, some things that might have been helpful to him. And from the presentation that he has made, it is very clear to me that he understands the reasoning and the fact that Abraham went south. But he went into a place where I wouldn't want to call it demon possession, but it's a place of mind control that the people have put us into, a kind of psychological operation that has been done on us. So we defend the thing, even though it is not defendable, so to speak. And so tonight, I'm doing this special 1 hour presentation just to talk about these matters, because it is not the first person that I've had to interact in this manner with. I remember Uncle Yeshua. He did a very horrible video concerning the things I was teaching. And I called him up and I texted him and left a message, and his people got him to get to me, and we had a conversation. And I said to him, you know, it is unfair for you to do that because you don't even know everything. None of us know everything. And you have given the option for you to have a conversation with me, and you actually took the option up. And he did tell his people that I've tried to reach out to him. And this is what I will always do. Ron Dalton, I did the same thing with him. He was present. He was in the presence of this information that I'm sharing here from the heart of Sunini Nandini. And he opted not to have a conversation as well. And so this brother from GOCC, he has also opted not to have a conversation as well. And several others have done the same, you know. But it is my responsibility, understanding the words of the Father, that when there is a situation of this nature, you will reach out to the person. He says, Msindisi speaking said, if you have aught against your brother, this is not really aught, this is a complete, don't know how to describe it, but he said, if you have aught against your brother, if you have an issue with your brother, and you find yourself at the altar already, just about to give your gifts, leave your gift at the altar and go get your brother, make it right with your brother, then come and give your gift. Because it won't be sensible, and it's counterproductive to put a gift on the altar when you know in your heart that there is aught against you and your brother. But if you go to your brother, and he refused to hear you or wants no conversation, then it is your responsibility as a servant of Sunini Nalini, especially when this truth concerning Africa is got to be revealed. It's big. It's now getting into the spirit of people. They're understanding little more. We saw him doing it. He logically went from Egypt straight to South Africa, going south according to the scriptures. And lots of other people, because they were teaching things, they were teaching what we all were there, teaching things, connecting the fake land in the Levant between the Arabs. We all spent time teaching that. And now when Sunini is revealing things differently, it is our responsibility to go back to these people, and say to them, we have erred. We didn't deliberately wanted to do that, but the information that we had at the time was not correct. And the information we had then is what we believe to be correct. But now with time, we are realizing it's not correct. And therefore, as humans, that's not a nice word neither, as children of the Most High, we are coming back to correct it. Like I said, I always make reference to the book that I wrote, Scattered but Not Lost, right? I'm not promoting it from the standpoint of, go buy it. I'm saying when I wrote this, the information I had at the time was what was there, you see? And so I wrote there history of the Hebrew Israelites, because that's what I believe at that point. And there's some things in there that I am editing at the moment, has to be changed. Because The books are open now, and Sunini Namini, because we are keeping the covenant, we're following the Bantu calendar, we're taking time from the southern hemisphere where the real Jerusalem is, and so we have basically rejoined the covenant with Sunini Nanini and our ancestors, the covenant that he made with our fathers. So when we ask for anything now, he's giving it back to us. And so the reason why I'm so passionate about Genesis chapter 13, verse number 1, is because the circumstances under which that revelation came so clearly, it was at my request of Sunini Nani. When I was experiencing, and I'll talk about this another time, the new form of lynching, I'm going to tell you about that. What you see Kyrie Irving, Kanye West, and others, we are going through is a period of lynching. You know, back then, the master used to throw rope like how they did Judas over the tree and hang us like leaves. But they found a new way because now they got us in the economics. All they need to do is turn off the economic taps. And so that's the new form of lynching. And that's why they're trying to up it a little more. If they bring everybody under that control, they can always turn off your economic tap. And that's why it is important that we become independent of these nations. You saw what they did to Kanye West. Today I see a video with him say that probably left with 120 million alone. From billion to million. See? Because they hold the controls of that tap. And that is what they don't want us to understand, that we need to become independent of those nations. And so, what we have inherited as a people is a teachings of the Bible that was given to us by these nations. No matter how we go around and say, oh, we are independent learners and what have you. They taught us. They told us how to read it, how to understand it, what it means. And so, in Christianity, we embraced it. The reason why Hebrew Israelite came about was because people broke away from Christianity and was looking for a different identity because they realized that that can't be the same and the right thing, you know? And so, it is this behavior of wanting to get it right that has caused me to go before Sunini Nanini and ask him. I said, show me what these people have done, that they're able to keep us in this captivity and for so long. And he said, you want to see? I'm talking like you here, but you here like how I'm talking to him. It's not the thing that we used to do. We got to really conjure up and squeeze our face and really shout and loud. No, we talk. And I said, he said, you want to see? And I said, yes. He said, read Genesis chapter 13, verse number 1. I said, no. You know, there comes a time in your life when you talk with him, like how Abraham, our father, spoke with him, like how Rebecca spoke with him when she said, boy, why is my pregnancy so painful? I know I've got to give birth to thousands of millions, but this one is very painful. And he said, don't worry, my daughter. There are two nations in your womb, two manner of people shall be separated from your bowels. I'm not teaching on that tonight. I'm just looking at the conversation. You know, Abraham, while he was in Mamre there, so he came to him in Genesis chapter 15 and said, you know, you're going to be a mighty nation. And Abraham said to him, but Sunini Nanini, you telling me I'm going to be a mighty nation? I don't even have a child. He said, don't worry, you're going to get a child. He said, come out here and look at them stars. You know, this kind of conversation, and I love the Bantu spirituality. This is not Christianity. This is not religion. This is not Judaism. This is not Islam. This is how the Bantu lived. It was a relationship, not a religion. It was the Catholics and the others that made religion out of our normal day-to-day life. And so, when you see the brother defending the doctrine, as he called it, the concept of the Levant, Northeast, where we were all guided to when we start breaking away from Christianity. You don't need to defend truth. Truth speaks for itself. Truth cannot be hidden for long. See, if you push truth, it's like a cork. If you put it down in the bottom of water, and the mistake you make is to lose it, it will pop up. That's truth. You don't have to work for truth. Solini is truth. In him is no darkness, no lies. The minute you have to start defending the truth, like how this brother was doing it there, lying to hide the truth, is painful to watch. It is nothing that I want to see, but there is something that needs to be done. Because what the conversation about Hebrew and Israelites have done with us is that it has brought us right back to the place that we left a long time ago. We left the place of Hebrew. We left the place of Israelite. We left the place of Jew. And these people that are aware of this awakening has caused this thing to come right back to that conversation. Everybody wants to know. Everybody now putting out a map. So you see, in West Africa, this is a Jew here, this is a Jew there, there's a Jew there. Ain't no Jew on the continent. Those people are Bantu people. So you got to go to the origin of these words. Like the brother said, he liked origin of the word, but he was doing they and. It's got to go when you say neged, what you're saying. Who said neged? The writers of the Hebrew language, the Hebrew Israelites, the Eastern Europeans, they're the ones that put it there. And they use it to mask the fact that when Abraham left Egypt, he went into a direction which is the south. Because they need to get a conversation to get to the northeast, where they and the Arabs agree that they should be, so that to hide this Bantu story and who we are as a people. And so that Psalms, the book of Psalms, say, come, let us cut them off from being a people, so that the name of the Bantu is never remembered in the earth. And so Bantu is being replaced with Hebrew. Bantu is being replaced with Israelite. Bantu is being replaced with Jew. Bantu is being replaced with Lembe Jew. Bantu is being replaced with Igbo Jew. Because that word that was created was deliberately created to hide and mask the children of Abraham. You saw the defense, and I'm going to link that video in the description box again. I want it to be a landmark video for people to see how you have to lie against the truth to sustain the lies that were told to us. It breaks my heart to see a Bantu brother having to do that. There's so many other things, you know. For example, there was a conversation about Noah and how many children he had. Now, we know logically now, more than ever before, but if I got 3 sons, they're going to have my DNA. 2 of my sons can't be producing black and brown people, and 1 of my sons with a completely different DNA producing European people. There's a problem there. And it's this logic we try, when it's presenting itself so boldly in front of our eyes, and we try to find a way around it, it's very distressing to watch. So what I want to do in this short video is to say, look, don't throw away your logics. The scriptures is very logical. Where they have hidden things, we are unearthing those things. So when you come up to a place like when the scripture is clearly saying Abraham went south and he came from the south, then you can't find a way to get him to go east by putting a word there that you call Negev as a place and denying the direction south. You can't do that. It's not right. So again, Noah had 3 sons. Okay, that's fine. Let's see the children. Let's see his children. And the question is, Shem, Negro. So right away we got a premise. If Shem is producing black and brown people, then Noah is producing black and brown children through his offspring. Okay? One more. Is producing the dark races. Those two children are going to be Noah's two children. And the one that is producing the not dark races cannot be Noah's child. Because Noah's two children, they're on record as giving us black and brown people. As simple as that. If it is not there, then we need to look to see what happened. Story of Esau and Jacob. Why we were told specifically of the color or complexion of Esau? He was red and hairy. I'm never told about the complexion of Jacob. Why were we told that Esau was the firstborn and Jacob, the one that Sunni loved, was a supplanter, a thief? As soon as they get to the mind, you must know somebody's handling this story. And so Sunnis are revealing back these things. When we go and look for Jacob, there was no J. So drop the J, and his name is sitting in front of us. And that name in the Yoruba language means he that opens the womb. I remember the look on Sister Favor's face when I asked her, we were having a meeting, I said, but Sister Favor, just out of the blues, suddenly laid it on my heart. Ask her, what will you say for he that opens the womb in Yoruba language? And she said, Jacob. It was like a light dawn on her. Jacob. Drop the J. A-Ko-B. You see, when they were copying this language, there's some semantics of this Bantu languages that they couldn't get the intonations and the enunciations. They couldn't get there. And so they put down words there, which today we are loving it to see it and honored it, because our brothers and sisters on the continent know lots of these things. You see, so it is important that when this revelation is coming, don't try to challenge it and knock it. Go and do the research. I'm giving you all the tools to go and look for it, where to look for it. You don't come back out here and start lambasting things that you don't know. And most of these times, if somebody will see the video and bring it to me, I don't get the time to go after people's video like that. And if I go, I say, okay, that's interesting. And I could ask for a conversation. But I'm going to lambaste nobody's video like that. That's not my place. And when you do this, you prevent yourself from allowing the spirit of Suninani to really speak to your heart. Now, why are you calling Yahuwah? You calling Yahuwah, Elohim, and all of these things, because you are still tied to the Kabbalah, which is Jewish mysticism, where Tetragrammaton gives you Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. So everything you get to call comes out from the people in the Levant. That's not your language. This basis of that language is a fabrication from the Bantu languages, and it is more Yiddish and German. Those Yiddish-speaking, German-speaking people look at the Bantu schools and crafted a language by twisting some of what is in the Bantu. So you see words like shalom is Salem, from Jerusalem. Salem meaning peace. Genetically modified with the H, you get Sha, S-H-A-L-O-M. You change to O, you get Shalom. Now somebody's doing Shalawam. See, and they're laughing because they're watching us leaving Christianity and get caught in the web that they have spun for us. Stop it. Pause. Step back. If the brother is saying the concordance, take it here. Look at the concordance here. Don't try to twist this information. You're not going to succeed. You don't know the source of where this is coming from. And when you do see the source, maybe I'm gone. You know, like.
Okay. Any comments on that? I don't know if anybody know anything about the Bantu, but you probably want to Google that. Go to YouTube and Google that. You know, you got it's a wealth of information surrounding that. There's some. Okay, somebody got a comment.
Pronounce the name of it again, please.
Bantu, Bantu.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, it's a race of people over in Africa, but pretty much all of Africa at one time they was Bantu. When the colonists came in, they the ones separated the land up and made all these different nationalities of people, but they all actually, most of them was one race of people, which had from his brother's perspective, and I'm starting to see that too. Is they all fled. They all when they were scattered, when they was taken out of Egypt. Means and they taken out of Israel. That's how they ended up. You know, so somewhere in that area, he's saying that the real nation, the real Jerusalem, the real nation of Israel is somewhere. It's not in the Middle East. It's somewhere over in the middle of Africa. Because when you look at when you find out who the people really are, you can see that they were scattered from it's a nucleus right there where they were scattered from, and it's not the Middle East. So yeah, so I'm searching that out too. Okay. So anybody else got any comments or anything before we go? Or questions? The name of that video right there was where you can go to Black Re-Education TV and you'll see it. It's South Africa is the Holy Land. Anybody else got anything?
You said Black Re-Education TV.
Yeah, that's the channel.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? Okay. So with that being said, we're gonna say shalom. Okay.
Shalom and thank you.
See everybody on Tuesday for our advanced Bible study. Shalom.
Shalom, everyone.
Shalom.
Shalom.